So do you think other diaspora Armenians should volunteer with AVC and repatriate?
Absolutely. I think everyone should do that.
Why do you say that?
Because somebody just sneezed, and people sneeze when the truth is spoken. That was 2018. I was already living in New York for 4 years, and I started the Armenian Language project at the church, St. Illuminator's Armenian Church on East 27th Street in Manhattan. And I started teaching the adult group, and then you were one of the students. You walked in with your beautiful hair and your style.
I have to say, shout out to the New York Armenians Facebook group, which is how I found out when just moved to New York in 2018. Yeah. I found out there were Armenian language lessons being taught, Eastern Armenian, in that church, and I showed up for class, and that's where we met.
If I knew I would meet a husband there, I would have posted it earlier.
But we didn't really start dating until after the war in 2020.
Yeah.
And a couple years later in 2022, now both of us are in different fields. I'm in technology sales and software sales. You're in psychology. But in 2022, we saw a need that wasn't being fulfilled, both in Armenia as well as in the diaspora, with respect to security and defense projects, and how can we connect the diaspora to security and defense projects in Armenia. And that's how we founded Little Bird Armenian Development.
I think one of the most important things that we realized at that time was it doesn't matter how much money we donate to build churches and schools and hospitals, and that's all of that is needed, but if we don't have the capacity to protect and defend that, then it's useless.
Yeah, so many people in the diaspora would often ask, when it comes to defense and security, well, what can we do? Yeah. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
So we saw that as a gap and realized that there is something we can do. Mm-hmm. And we figured out what works and we try to do it.
Yeah.
Well, through my family, for sure. I grew up in the small but mighty Armenian community around St. Louis, Missouri, and Granite City, Illinois. I was a third generation born in the United States. Mm-hmm. Wow. But through that Armenian community and other organizations, we were able to retain some of our cultural heritage. And that was really important. That also helped to push and draw me to Armenia today. You were born here, but then you lived abroad for, what, 11 years?
Yeah, I lived in England first, and then I came back, and that was 2014 when I moved to New York. And I've been living there, since that time. My motivation was different. I wanted more opportunities, I wanted growth, I wanted to expand my horizons and see the world. And it's just really ironic that we're back here, we're back in the homeland where we all Armenians come from. I gained some professional knowledge and experience in the US, and I feel like that should be the goal. You go abroad, you gain experience and knowledge, and you bring it back to Armenia, and that's what will eventually develop this country. So that's what I'm doing. I'm in the field of psychotherapy, as you said. I see a big lack here, something that I can do in that field. And I hope that this few weeks that I'm spending with AVC will make an impact.
Yeah, that's great. I think everyone has a value that they can bring.
Yeah.
Everyone does something that can be of value here, no matter what that is, whether it's in the arts, whether it's in psychotherapy, whether it's in business and business development, or in charity and humanitarian work. or even politics. There's so many different topics and fields that all could use a little bit of support.
Yeah.
Not to say that anyone is doing anything wrong here, but we love the idea of coming to Armenia with the knowledge that we have gained throughout the world and just showing what's possible.
What's it like to have a Hayastansi wife at home? Who speaks Eastern Armenian to you?
You know, it's great. And I, like many others in the diaspora, I didn't really know Armenian. I knew a few phrases growing up that was Western Armenian. Granted, you were my Eastern Armenian teacher. I was one of your best students,
Of course
I
you
know.
were.
But also,
You still are, honey.
I still have a lot to learn. And when people ask me if I speak Armenian and they ask me here, my first answer is Mikich sovorum em hayeren. But then that starts getting me into trouble because then they start speaking to me more.
And your Armenian has been so much better because we travel a lot. Like we've been coming to Armenia 4 times a year.
Yeah.
And with each visit, you learn more, you know, colloquial slang words here and there, some Russian words.
Bache.
Bache. I think the funny thing is that people always confuse me with a Russian, and I don't look Russian at all. And they just always, the first language they speak to me is Russian, and I respond in Armenian usually. So that's funny because I was born here. I consider myself a local. Why are you speaking Russian to me? Have you had fun interactions?
You know, just today I was on the metro and I was walking and I was looking at the map. I got off the train and I was looking at the map and I figure out where I need to go. And this woman tapped me on the shoulder and she asked me a question. And I just turned to her and I said, yeah, and I said, Chem haskanum. And then she said, Jam. And I said, oh, I know what that means. And so I showed her what time it was on my phone. And she went and walked away. It was 1:26.
Can you say it in Armenian?
Che.
Mek ans 26.
Mek ans 26. Jam.
Che.
Che. So it's no surprise that we do a lot. And both of us are in completely different fields, but we're volunteering across different placements with AVC. Both of us have multiple placements.
Yeah.
On top of that, we also have our jobs that we work at night back in New York while we're here. How are you juggling that?
I mean, to be honest, it works perfectly well. During the day, I do the Armenian volunteering thing, and then in the evening, I work my New York job. Like now, after this is done, after this project is done, we'll go home. I'll start my sessions. How are you managing?
So sessions, you mean your therapy sessions with your clients back in New York?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
What about you? How are you juggling?
You know, people back in New York ask me that a lot, and I tell them that it's remarkably easy. Considering the time difference, I feel like it's almost a life hack because I get 2 days in one.
That's a good answer.
Yeah. Usually from, let's walk through a day here. So we'll wake up, and usually by about 10 a.m. we're on our way or out to our first meetings or our working with our placements. And we might have a meeting for an hour, 2 hours, and then we'll go to another meeting with a delicious lunch sandwiched in between.
Ooh, baby.
And then after our meetings are done in Yerevan with the different people, we head back to our apartment we might grab some food, or we have our fridge stocked with delicious things to eat.
And here's my favorite restaurant, La Fridge. It's open 24 hours a day, and there's no dress code.
And then usually by about 5 p.m. we'll have our computers open and we start the New York day. Sometimes I don't even tell people that I'm in Armenia.
Yeah.
Sometimes I tell them, sometimes I don't. They don't need to know. And we work until really about midnight, give or take, on an average day. And working until midnight, then we wind down a little bit and we get some sleep. And we still get plenty of sleep. Wake up around 8 a.m. That's about 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And then it's time to do it all over again.
Yeah.
And I think what keeps us going and keeps us energized through all of that is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but knowing that we're making a difference.
Yeah, for sure. It keeps us motivated and inspired. I think what's important for me is that they're both cities. You know, they provide the city life with culture and restaurants and cafes and nightlife, everything happening in the city. What's different is that I love New York and I love Yerevan, but Yerevan is just really comfortable. You know, my family is here, so I get to see them often. I get to spend time with my friends. I get to see the beautiful old architecture of the city.
When you compare New York to Yerevan, they're so different, but there's also similarities. But something about Yerevan is special. It's hard to put words around it, but I know when we're in New York, we're constantly talking about Yerevan and our love for the city and for this country and for the people in it. Well, that's why we're making this video, is to help get the word out about Armenian Volunteer Corps, Birthright Armenia, and all of the incredible placements where people who have never been here before or people like us who come often can meet some of these incredible people.
Actually, pretty soon, we're thinking of moving back here and spending time here because this is where we want our family to grow, our children to grow up. To know where they come from, who they are.
Yeah, I agree. The concept of how difficult it can be to stay Armenian in the diaspora, it's real, and you have to try to keep that. I'm very lucky that my family over multiple generations tried so hard to keep that and succeeded. And now, for 30 years, we have a country. And we have a place to call our own.